Welcome to Executive Leaders Radio, your spot in the corner office, the radio show where executives share their secrets to success. Executive Leaders Radio.
You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, with my co-host, Jim Wilson, Newmark, Caleb Hoppus, Hanlon, Frank Hennessy, Premier Planning Group, and Matthew Shapiro Obermeyer. We have a great lineup of guests for you on our show today. Matthew, will you please give us the rundown?
Yep, I'm real excited this morning, Herb. We're starting off with Ron Scheese, President and CEO of Andesa Services. After that, we have Matt Murphy, the CEO of InHome Therapy. Then we have Greg DeCinque, the managing partner and co-founder of Crystal Technologies Group. And we're wrapping up today with Heather Fritzsche, the co-founder and CEO of the Spearhead Group.
Let's get to know our first guest, Ron Scheese, President and CEO of Andesa Services. What is Andesa Services, Ron?
We do software and services for the life insurance industry.
Mm-hmm. How large or how small is the team?
190 employee owners.
Mm-hmm. And where you're from originally, how many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
Grew up in Coaldale, Pennsylvania. I am the middle child of 5.
Mm-hmm. And 8 to 14, what kind of stuff were you up to? What were you doing as a kid?
So played sports, baseball, football, basketball, had a really close, small town, close-knit friend group that just really hung out and played a lot in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned there were like 5 or 6 of you, and that sometimes, what was your role with the group of kids?
I guess I was kind of like the organizer, sort of the leader. I'd like to come up with ideas and just kind of go explore, with the group, try to do things like visit the coal mines, try to tie that into the area, et cetera.
So you were coming up with ideas and dragging your friends into it, even as a young kid. Sounds to me like there's a real direct connection to what you're doing with this organization nowadays, isn't there?
Yeah, I think so. I think the part of the role of the CEO is visionary and then arranger, getting the resources aligned to the opportunities in the market.
Perfect. Jim?
Ron, tell us about mom and dad. What were they doing when you were growing up?
So dad was a World War II sergeant, coal miner, shoveled coal for Bethlehem Steel, and was a tractor trailer driver. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She raised 5 of us.
What kind of characteristic traits would you take away from both of them that you
So from dad, it's really the hard work. It's that ethic of working really hard. I think the best advice my dad ever gave me was, get an education where you can sit behind a desk so you don't have to work as hard as I do. From mom, it was really just that her high school nickname was Sparky. She just lit up a room. It was really just that heart in serving others that she brought to the table.
Caleb? Caleb?
Hey, Ron. So I'd like to stick with your father, World War II veteran, coal shoveler, very hard worker. I'd imagine that you got a lot of discipline from him as well. So what role does that play in you becoming the CEO of Andesa?
Caleb, actually, I don't think I grew up like you hear World War II sergeant, but I don't think I grew up in that military discipline environment. And I don't really even consider myself all that disciplined. I am really more, ideas and maybe sometimes too many ideas, for us to chase. But it was just, my dad just worked really hard, and that's what he brought, home.
Matthew?
Yeah, Ron, it's interesting to me. You said that your dad told you to get an education so you wouldn't have to work as hard as he does. Do you work as hard as he does? Or as he did?
Yeah, I guess I do. I don't think he appreciated how sitting behind a desk, how difficult that can be, how it's brain work, not physical labor, but it is hard work. Yes.
And when you talk about brain work and things like that, how young were you when you were all about studying kind of history and connections and things like that go on in the brain?
Yeah, I probably started that in about maybe 4th, 5th grade, maybe 10, 11, 12 years old. I really just, I loved history, really got a passion for literature. And so, trying to make connections to what goes on in the world, even at, sports I played, I wanted to understand, like, what was the history of the sport? Why was there a team in New York? Why were there these different things? So I really was always trying to make that connection.
And were you about sharing those connections with your friends and your teammates and things like that?
Yeah. So I think that would, part of the thing about education is you learn, but then you bring others along on that journey. So you try to take what you learn and you share that with others and help them along by bringing them, to that same level of knowledge.
And what does bringing people along on your intellectual journeys have to do with running Andesa?
Oh, it's part of the framework. Our purpose as a company is to help our employee owners and our clients reach their full potential. And so sometimes my role is really to bring what I learn, what I see in the market, what I understand about the industry, and help, my employee owners, understand that as well, so that they can grow, that they can begin. We constantly have to be learning because the world keeps changing.
Frank?
Ron, so you're a CPA and you provide support to the insurance industry. Forgive my bias, but I don't think of dynamic personality when I think of those folks, yet you're highly personable. I'm wondering where that comes from. It's got to come from your mom.
I would agree, Frank. I think, again, that spark, that just passion for serving others. I think it's a little bit also just that faith-based. I grew up in a very faith-based household, and I think it's just part of that core.
How did your family demonstrate faith?
Again, I mentioned it's sort of just core to who we are. And I think the behaviors come out in caring, loving, serving others. And I think that's, part of why I'm involved in so many different things.
So why are those things important in business?
So I think with business, it really starts with the purpose. Like, what's your purpose? I mentioned our purpose of helping our employee owners grow and helping our clients grow. And it's the values. Like, again, I think your integrity in business is, does your purpose, do your values align with who you are? Are you acting in accordance with who you say you are?
So you truly take your family life to where you are today. It carries with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In my day-to-day work.
Mm-hmm. Matthew.
Ron, what is an authorpreneur?
So I wrote a book, More Than a Company, Leading in a Values-Based Ecosystem. And I guess when I wrote it, I was thinking, okay, I just have to write it. And then as I was writing it, I realized not only do I have to write it, I have to make sure other people read it, that I can promote the ideas and the concepts in the book beyond just somebody picking it up and reading it. So it's about promotion. It's about, going on speaking engagements to kind of talk about what it means to lead in a values-based system.
Why did you think it was important to write that book and share all of that?
Because again, I think this is, I think business has the opportunity to help others. And so if you get your business right, you can create the environment that helps others grow. And again, at Andesa, I've been fortunate to follow in our founder's footsteps, John Walker, who just had that belief of everybody knows about doing the right thing. How do I help my employee owners grow as individuals? Not be the best developer, but be the best person they can be.
Business is about making money and paying your bills. What are you talking about? Business is about something bigger than that.
I think when you grow people and you help your clients succeed, your business is the result of that. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's the purpose of the business.
I understand that your dad wanted you to work with your head as opposed to your hands. And is that one of the reasons you're the chairman of Albright College University?
Yeah. So part of it is I went to Albright, loved my alma mater. Again, education was my way out of poverty. So it's my way of giving back. And I'm fortunate enough to have the time, between running Andesa, and my children are all grown. They're out doing their own thing right now. So I have a little bit more time to be able to give back. But I just believe so much in the power of education and helping others that I wanted to serve in that way.
So you're the chairman of this university, and you get paid a lot of money for doing that?
No, it's all volunteer work. So,
have you donated money to Albright?
You have to, yes. Well, I have throughout, regardless of being on the board. I've always given back to my alma mater. I think, again, that stems from my family. Like, we didn't come from much, but what we had, we gave. We gave back to, those things that were meaningful to us, and Albright certainly is one of those charities that is very meaningful to me.
So Albright is your alma mater, and as opposed to you getting paid a lot of money as the chairman, you've been donating money and time all this time because it really is very meaningful to you?
Yes, me and a lot of other folks as well.
Mm-hmm. What kind of difference do you think you're making?
We see students who, much like myself, come from lower income or even moderate, middle income, and by education they grow, and their opportunity in life is really stemming from their ability to see the world through that basis of education. Albright has a national reputation for increasing.
Website address for Andesa Services?
AndesaServices.com.
We've been speaking with Ron Scheese, President and CEO of Andesa Services, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com, to learn more about our executive leaders. Back in a moment, right after this quick break. And your name and organization is?
I'm Brian Brown. I'm with Reach Local.
And how young were you, Brian, when you began your marketing career?
Interesting story. Hey, I started way back in third grade. I was catching these spiders and kids loved them, and I would sell them at school. And I realized, hey, I really enjoy making an extra buck.
So you were marketing spiders when you were a kid because the other kids thought they were really cool. What's that have to do with what you're doing nowadays?
It just really got me into sales and taught me how much I enjoyed it. And been in sales my whole life, had many different types of careers, but internet marketing seemed to be my lifelong dream.
Mm-hmm. And what's the website address of your organization?
PhillyonlineMarketing.com.
Let me have that one more time.
PhillyonlineMarketing.com.
And your name again is?
Brian Brown at Reach Local.
And this has been your Business Spotlight. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. I'd like to introduce Matt Murphy, CEO of InHome Therapy. Matt, what is InHome Therapy? What are you guys doing?
We provide rehab in the home, PTOT and speech.
And where you're from originally? How many brothers and sisters? Where are you in the pecking order?
Avoca, New York, and I'm fourth of four.
All righty. 8 to 14, when you were a kid, what kind of stuff were you doing? What kind of stuff were you up to?
Playing sports, so football, basketball, baseball, was in band, chorus, scouts, church group, Latin club.
Mm-hmm. All righty, Frank?
So, Matt, what about school? Big school, small school? What kind of student were you?
I was a great student, but in a really small school. So public school, 39 kids in my graduating class.
Okay, and you're top of the class.
It's not quite the top, but within range.
All right, so you're the big guy there, and then you're the youngest of four, and you also said you were the youngest of about 40 cousins.
Yep, 20 on each side.
Wow, so how did that impact you? What were your observations? What was going on then?
Yeah, so I was a leader amongst those 40, I think both sports and academically in clubs, but then obviously, being the youngest of the 40 on the other side. So I think it really demonstrated to me the importance of knowing your role.
So being the youngest, but also being a leader, how does that impact you in a business career involved with startups and turnarounds and uncertain environments?
Yeah, again, I think it's really important to know what context you're in and where you can make your best impact, and also that the people that you're leading also have this great opportunity to make an impact kind of wherever they start from.
Mm-hmm. Jim?
Matt, you told us you played many sports growing up, but you really enjoyed basketball. What position did you play, and what was your role on the team?
So I love basketball, still do. I was a center on the team, and was also captain of the team.
Would you say you were like the all-star of the team, or?
I would say I was the worst player on the team, so 13th man out of 13.
So how'd you become captain then?
Yeah, I think despite that, I knew that I could make an impact. I knew that I could still be a leader of the other folks on the team, even though I wasn't the best player on the team. I think the coach recognized it as well, that I could make an impact both with understanding how the game was going, game strategy, and those kinds of things.
So how do those skills of being able to communicate and influence others, how do those relate to what you do at InHome Therapy?
I use it every day. I mean, the people in our business are therapists. I'm not a therapist, but I know how to lead therapists, and I know how to make sure that we're driving the right outcomes for the patients that we serve.
Caleb?
Matt, you mentioned in the green room that you worked on a few farms. How old were you when you started, and tell us a little bit about it?
So I was 13 when I started, and I worked throughout high school in mostly dairy farm.
When you were working on the farms, is it alone or were you working kind of as part of a team?
Yeah, usually a group of folks that were working hard together.
So what did you learn from working as a team on the farm?
Definitely learn the value of hard work. I mean, it's a very tangible. You can see the results of what you're doing. But I think I learned there also that I didn't grow up on the farm, but I was working on other folks' farms. So I again realized that they were the experts, but really could produce great impact by knowing your role on the farm.
So knowing your role, that's interesting to hear. How does that relate to how you interact with your employees at InHome Therapy?
Yeah, I think it's the ability to instill accountability, to inspire folks to make an impact in whatever it is, whether they're doing customer service or whether they're doing providing the therapy or whether they're working in the back office. That everybody has this great opportunity to make an impact to the team.
Mm-hmm. Matthew?
Yeah, Matt, could you tell us about your music career?
Unfortunately, it's much like my basketball career. Perhaps not a great musician, but son of a music teacher, I was involved in band and chorus throughout middle school and high school.
So was your mom actually your teacher?
She was. She was the teacher and choral director. So
tell me, when you're in the chorus and your mom is in charge, what was that like?
Again, I think a little bit like being a coach's kid. So, I was never assigned a solo, but I perhaps took on the responsibility of enforcer, if you will, of helping mom maintain discipline in the chorus. Not that she needed it, but that I felt that was my role. Where did you get
the sense that was your role, to be the enforcer, to help her, to take care of things?
Yeah, again, my mom was a fantastic leader, so she didn't necessarily need my help, but I think just the sense of responsibility that I felt, looking for where I could make my impact.
And does that sense of responsibility and looking for a way to make an impact, tell me, does that have anything to do with the people that InHome Therapy is serving?
Yeah, absolutely, Matthew. I mean, it's very much a servant leadership environment. We exist to serve homebound folks that need therapy in their home. So it's very much patient first as a company. And then for those of us that aren't therapists in the business, it's very much therapist first. So what can we do to make sure that the therapists are able to go be the heroes in the home?
And it's interesting when you talk about not being a therapist and serving therapists. How young were you when you were like observing patterns and statistics the way you are on the basketball team? How young were you when you knew you could kind of do that analysis and see things and see connections?
Honestly, I can't remember a time when I wasn't doing that. So, come from an age where the first thing you do in the morning is read box scores. And I think so from the time I could read the sports page, I probably started doing that.
Mm-hmm. So it's fascinating to me that you've described yourself as the worst player and a space eater in the chorus and all these other things. But at the same time, you are excelling at being able to see kind of connections and have ideas. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I think I've always been in spots where I've just been surrounded by folks that are uniquely and supremely talented in what they do. But I know that my ability is to help them get the most out of that and create the environment where they can succeed in that way.
Mm-hmm. Caleb?
Matt, it seems like service is definitely a big part of your life. I mean, you're helping a ton of people at InHome Therapy. Where did that sense of service come from?
Yeah, I think, again, both my parents and mom is a public school teacher and a leader in music. My dad was in the Korean War, was in the Army. So I think we just grew up with just a strong sense of duty and responsibility to serve.
Are you a veteran yourself?
I am. I was an officer in the Navy.
So I'm a Marine Corps veteran also. I see a lot of veterans in business doing great things with what they learned from their military traits. I'm curious, how did your time in the Navy kind of shape your career as a CEO?
Yeah, I think it definitely is something I think about every day. I mean, about accountability, about servant leadership, about, leaders eat last, right? I mean, so it's about making sure that your team has the resources and the guidance and the help that they need so that they can succeed.
Mm-hmm. What turns you on about your gig as it says here you're the CEO of InHome Therapy. Why are you doing this?
I've always been in purpose-driven organizations. So, again, back to obviously the Navy is a purpose-driven organization, but throughout my career, I've always gravitated to spots that have a strong purpose. And I just feel passionately about what we do. It's for patients, therapists, and agencies to run together. And again, the impact of the service being delivered in the home. So the place that the patients most want to receive their care is where the best outcomes can be driven from there. So I'm excited about that. I'm passionate about that, and I feel deeply about that opportunity.
So you really believe in the business you're in. You really believe in the service you're providing, and you believe in the people that are delivering the service that your organization is providing. Am I seeing that correctly? That's
absolutely it. We have a responsibility to be great at delivering care in the home.
Responsibility to be great at delivering care in the home. Do you ever get feedback from the folks that you're helping?
Yeah, it's funny. The feedback we get isn't, I have 3 degrees more of range of motion in my rotator cuff. It's, I loved my therapist. It's, this was a great experience. This was a life-changing event. And I don't know that they know that whether the therapist was using state-of-the-art technology, but they know how that therapist made them feel and how conscientious that therapist was about their care.
Mm-hmm. What's the website address for this organization known as InHome Therapy?
InHomeTherapy.com.
We've been speaking with Matt Murphy, the CEO of InHome Therapy, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Let me have the website address one more time.
InHomeTherapy.com.
Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. That's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. We will be back in a moment, right after this quick break. Don't go away. We'll be right back. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. I'd like to introduce Greg DeCinque, managing partner and co-founder of Crystal Technologies Group. Greg, what is Crystal Technologies Group?
Crystal Technologies provides telecommunications and IT support to large enterprise companies.
And where you're from originally, how many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
Grew up in Salem, New Jersey. I'm the oldest of 2.
All righty. And 8 to 14, what kind of stuff were you what were you doing as a kid?
Well, Salem's kind of rural, so we played Little League, a lot of backyard play with friends and family, always had an odd job to make money, took some piano lessons for about 5 years in that range as well.
All right, so in the green room when we were talking, you told me you did a lot of painting fences with your mom. Why were you painting fences with your mom, and how young were you?
Well, I was in 4th grade. My mom had an opportunity to paint about 2 miles of fences around an estate. So that kept us busy. We just kind of went in a circle for about 4 years.
And we worked for 3 or 4 hours. Wasn't it sort of rotten, the fact that you were, working with your mom, painting these fences, making money, as opposed to playing with your friends?
Well, we only did it in the summers for about 4 hours a day. So we started at 8 o'clock in the morning and finished at 12. And I still had plenty of time to do all the rest of the things that you want to do. And a couple bucks an hour isn't bad to have in your pocket.
So work wasn't really work for you. You sort of enjoyed the work, didn't you?
Yeah, well, it's it's outside. You could be sloppy because it's outside. When you're painting, you didn't have to be careful.
What's that idea? What's that concept of work really isn't work to you? What's that have to do with your building this Crystal Technologies Group?
Well, the bottom line is, if you like what you do, it's really not work. So whether it's painting fences or Crystal Technologies, I like our business. I love our business, and it's great.
Matthew?
So what were you talking to your mom about for 4 hours a day while you were painting fences while you were a kid?
Well, we always had the radio on, so that's number one. So we talked a lot about music and what we were hearing on AM back then. And just basically, there was a lot of quiet time, to be honest with you. And, a lot about things that you just talk about life-wise for a few hours a day outside with some peace.
Tell me about your mom and her fence painting business.
Well, The reason she was even painting these fences is my grandfather took care of this estate as the maintenance man, and he had more important jobs to do than paint fences. So it was kind of like an early outsource. We gave my mom something to do. She enjoyed it. And it was really a vehicle for her to, teach me how to work and spend time together.
Jim?
And, like I said, make a few bucks.
Greg, tell us about your dad. What did he do?
My dad was a physical therapist.
So he was helping people. I think you had mentioned he had a nickname that he was given.
Actually, his name's Ben. So he was known as Gentle Ben.
So why do people call him Gentle Ben?
He just has a very gentle way about him. He actually worked with all women. He was one of the few men in the facility. So he was just a great caretaker and a really good guy.
Do you see any of that Gentle Ben attitude reflected in, your company culture or employee satisfaction?
Yes, really in both directions. It's very important that we take care of our employees. We have virtually no turnover as a result, and our employees understand that the reason we exist is to take great care of our clients.
Mm-hmm. Caleb?
Hey, Greg, what was your favorite sport growing up?
Well, my favorite sport was basketball, but there was nowhere to play basketball organized except for my backyard until I got to high school. But I was pretty good at baseball.
So let's stick with basketball. What was your position and role on the team?
Well, when I got to high school, my role was bench because I'd never played organized basketball before, but I could shoot. So I would be the shooting guard whenever I got a chance to play. And we had a really good basketball team, actually. So
perimeter shooter or inside the key?
Definitely perimeter.
All right. Well, what I'm curious about is even the best shooters go cold. Everybody breaks their slumps differently. So how do you break a slump in shooting or in business now? What'd you learn to be able to overcome hurdles?
A great question. If you don't shoot, you don't score. And so I always think the shot's going to go in. And from a business standpoint, you just got to keep on plugging. If you work hard, everything's going to go, the way that you need it to eventually.
Mm-hmm. Frank?
Greg, you mentioned your grandfather a few times and the fact that he gave you several jobs to do. How big was the estate he managed?
Oh, gee, it was probably 40, maybe 30 acres. I mean, it had an airstrip and probably 7 or 8 buildings on the property.
That sounds like a huge responsibility. What were some of the jobs he was responsible for?
I mean, from a seasonal standpoint, as you can imagine, there's a lot of leaves that needed to be picked up. They had animals, so taking care of animals, taking care of building maintenance, mow grass in the summer,
sure,
you name it.
So He had to understand priorities, project manage, and organize a lot of people. And you observed and did some of this. Do you take any of those characteristics with you in managing teams and collaborating on behalf of your clients at Crystal Technologies?
I do, actually. I mean, we spent a lot of time together, and the bottom line is he was a very precise, attention to detail. If you've got a job to do in a period of time, you need to get it done. So that all translates directly into, my life in business and at Crystal Technologies.
Jim? I understand that Mom, that you played piano. What was why did you love playing piano, Greg?
Well, let's say I love music, Herb. The piano, I was held hostage. I couldn't play Little League unless I took piano lessons. So there was 5 years worth of piano lessons that coincided with my Little League years.
I got you. So Mom made you take the piano, huh? And I understand that you've had an equal partner in Crystal Technologies for 25 years. Is that true?
Yeah, believe it or not, that is.
Uh-huh. Why would you want an equal partner considering all the problems that you can have with a partner? Why would you have a partner for 25 years?
Well, first of all, it's got to start somewhere, and it started because I'm a collaborative guy. So I always knew that I would work well in a partner type of relationship. And, fortunately, the business has been great for the two of us, and we've had a great partnership for 25 years.
What do you guys do different? What do you do different than your partner? What does your partner do better than you, et cetera, et cetera?
Wow. Well, we're pretty similar, which is probably one of our biggest challenges because we both are good at the same things and like to do the same things, mostly towards sales and taking care of customers. But I've oriented myself a little bit more towards the operation side, and she pays a little more attention to the sales side.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like, the relationship you had with your mom painting those fences is, you wanted to do it. You didn't feel rotten because she was forcing you to do it. Well, maybe the piano lessons, but you're painting the fences. There was some quiet time. You were listening to music together, enjoying the music. Is there a correlation there?
Well, let's go to the piano first. I mean, the bottom line is you can't always do what you want to do and what you like to do all day long. So we'll start with that. And the bottom line is, we all work to provide happiness for our family and provide for our family. And the bottom line is, you got to work to make some money to do things that make you happy. So to me, it all fits together.
Mm-hmm. Matthew, what else you thinking there? Any other thoughts?
I was struck by the 50-50 partner, right? In my other life where I'm a lawyer, I would tell you never divide things 50-50. So how do you work through it when you're not in the same place? I mean, how do you make it when you both have to agree on everything?
Well, first of all, we didn't really know what we were doing when we started at 50-50, and that's probably good. And one of my close business advisors warned us early on that it's never 50-50 all the time. And it just ebbs and flows. And if you really take a long view and it's pretty darn close, it works out. So we definitely have a long-term approach to our business.
So here you are running this successful business. There's got to be some ego to that. How do you get your ego to take the back seat when necessary so that you can compromise and move things forward?
Yeah, well, that goes to personality. And the bottom line is, someone really kind of has to be in the lead and someone's got to be willing to follow. And that doesn't have to happen all the time. We switch roles when necessary. And on a case-by-case basis, I recognize, hey, my place is to, get into the passenger seat on this one. Mm-hmm. And there's times where I'm driving.
The website address for Crystal Technologies Group?
crystaltechnologies.com.
We've been speaking with Greg DeCinque, managing partner and co-founder of Crystal Technologies Group here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com. We'll be back in a moment right after this quick break. Don't go away.
Recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, Executive Leaders Radio. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Simply visit executiveleadersradio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, Executive Leaders Radio. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable. Yes, this radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit executiveleadersradio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors for free exposure.
We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. I'd like to introduce Heather Fritzsche, who is the co-founder and CEO of the Spearhead Group. Heather, what is the Spearhead Group? What are you guys doing?
We create custom packaging for the liquor industry.
And where you're from originally, how many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
I'm from Bernardsville, New Jersey, and I am the oldest of two girls.
8 to 14, what kind of stuff were you doing? What kind of stuff were you doing as a kid?
Well, unlike my fellow radio guests, I was not doing sports. I am not a person who is necessarily in control of her limbs even now, but I was working. Actually, I started working when I was 11 doing babysitting.
Mm-hmm. And you also mentioned earlier, you said you tried everything. What do you mean you tried everything?
I did a season on basketball, a season in dance, a season in gymnastics, a season on everything, and I'm not good at any of it. And, if I learned anything, it's that sometimes you can improve yourself and sometimes you can't, and you should stay where you fit.
All righty. Matthew.
So Heather, you were a young babysitter. Tell me, what did you do different than all the other babysitters?
So I'm very proud to say at the age of 47 that at 11, I was the most popular babysitter in town. And the reason why is because when I was babysitting and I didn't just sit on the couch and watch TV. Played with the kids. And then when they went to bed, I cleaned the kitchen.
Wait a minute. You're babysitting and the kids go to bed and you can finally kick back, watch TV and eat the food and you decide to clean. What's that all about?
Because if you're the person who cleans the kitchen, you're the first one on the babysitting list the next time.
Why did it matter to you to be the first one on the babysitting list the next time?
Because I wanted to be the best and I wanted to make money. And because I wasn't in sports, I had the time. So you do what you can to be the next person that they call.
You say you don't do sports, but it was important to you to be the best at this. Where's that competitive streak come from?
It's funny. I don't consider it competitive because I'm not thinking about anybody else. I'm thinking about, I want to be the first person someone calls, and I'm not thinking about who's second and who's third. I just want to be the best.
And who did you observe when you were a kid who was the best, that aspired you to be the best, independent of the competition?
I have to be honest with you. I don't have an answer to that question. It's just in my DNA that's the reward that I like. I like to be known as being the best, and it's not from anything else.
Mm-hmm. Caleb?
Heather, what did your parents do for a living?
So my mom stayed home until I was in 7th grade, and then she was a guidance counselor in a high school. And my dad was an entrepreneur. He ran a company that did venture capital and biotech, and he also started a newspaper back in the 80s.
What did you learn from your dad as an entrepreneur?
Well, I learned the value of hard work, but I also learned the risks of hard work because my father, he did work all the time and wasn't home. So as I became what I call an accidental entrepreneur, I did say that I'm not going to be somebody who's not home for her family.
Yeah, that's common. You see entrepreneurs working 15 hours a day. They expect their employees to do the same. Is that how it works at the Spearhead Group?
It does not work that way at the Spearhead Group. I mean, we all do work really hard, but we work hard in the hours we give to work. So we do not stand around a coffee pot and chit chat ever. We come in, we work hard, but we do go home. We have a bunch of, little kids on the Spearhead team and we're all home for them.
Mm-hmm. Frank?
Heather, you told us you were staggeringly unpopular as a child. Did you know that at the time, or did you come to realize that later?
Of course I knew that at the time. I mean, kids can be terrible. I grew up in the age where we used to have answering machines. So I used to come home and hit play on the answering machine, and it was prank call after prank call and horrible nastiness. And I think it broke my mother's heart.
Wow. So you and your younger sister spent a lot of time with your mom because your father was so busy working. What was that like?
My mom was my best friend and my champion. So as the kids were being awful, my mother was always, what they say isn't true. You're wonderful. You're great. All those things. So every day I got kicked down before 3 and picked up after 3.
So she was your support, but you told us when you were very young, she became ill and passed. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, my mom was diagnosed with leukemia when I was 14 and she passed away when I was 17. So in my high school years, that sort of is what I was dealing with at that time.
Well, how did that help shape your role at the time?
Well, I became mom number 2 and I didn't regret it. I don't begrudge it even now. But I used to, up until 3 o'clock, I was a student. And then from 3 to, 8, I was taking care of my little sister. And then after 8, I did my homework.
What would your younger sister say about Heather?
Well, she would say I was mom number 2. And, maybe to a certain extent, I might still be, to be honest.
So how do those experiences help contribute to a business who's all about rethinking and visualizing branding for your clients?
Well, the reality is that my goal here is to inspire my team to give my clients what they need. Even Richard Branson has this thing: clients don't come first, employees come first, because if you take care of the employees, they take care of the clients. So I suppose one might be able to make the argument that I'm a little bit of a mom CEO.
Mm-hmm. Super. Jim?
So it sounds like you were shouldered with a lot of responsibility at an early age. How did you know what to do? Did that come with an instruction manual?
Well, luckily my mom was my instruction manual. So she told me, how do you make the vegetables come out at the same time as the meat? And how do you wash the laundry? And, I had to learn how to drive to take my sister to piano lessons, all those things.
So it sounds like you're a really creative problem solver even at an early age. You also mentioned being in a youth group. Did that have any influence on what you thought the right thing to do was and the wrong thing to do was as mom number two?
Exactly. Well, the reality is I was in a Christian based youth group, and we did Habitat for Humanity every summer. And I have a very centered belief that right and wrong is really the only thing that matters. So if you make your decisions based on knowing what's right or what's wrong, you won't make the wrong decision.
So what do you take from that to Spearhead Group?
Well, it's the exact same thing. I mean, look, I'm in manufacturing, and sometimes manufacturing goes wrong. But what do? Stick a client with the bill? No, you pay what you need to pay. You fix it, even if I lose money, because your word and the thing that you have said you will do is what you will do, no matter what it takes.
Mm-hmm. Heather, it's fascinating to me when you talked earlier about the importance of separating life and work. You have a partner, right?
I do.
Who's your partner?
So my partner in the Spearhead Group is my husband, but we run the business very separately, very independently. You wouldn't know we were married in this office.
And how do you do that? How do you relate to your husband and just with any partner to begin with when you have to make decisions and you may not always agree?
Well, I have learned that my husband is a genius at some things and I am a genius at some things. And the most important thing we can do is give ourselves and each other the space we need to be the brilliance to bring the brilliance we have to our own area. But I've stopped babysitting what he does and he has stopped babysitting what I do.
So implicit in saying that that you're a genius in some things is that you aren't in others. I'm actually fascinated by how open you are about the things that don't go so well, be it your sports and you described as awkwardness to talking so openly about how you were unpopular as a kid. Like where does that openness come from?
That's a darn good question, and I don't know the answer to it. I don't have a lot of artifice in me. I'm an open book, and I think people know that about me. So I can't go in and even make, like a cheesy sales pitch. I can't do it. I just tell it like it is.
So what does telling it like it is and being an open book, what does that have to do with running the Spearhead Group?
I think my biggest goal is to create a place for my employees to thrive. And so they know when they look at me, they know I'm telling the truth and I'm telling it like it is. And, for knock wood, for the last 4 years, things have been great and they know it. But, if there comes a time where it's not, they'll know. It's okay.
Mm-hmm. What do you like best about your job?
I like giving opportunities to people.
What are you talking about?
So I look at my employees. I have employees. There's a bunch of 3-year-old and 6-year-old little kids here, right? Those little kids look at their moms and they see what their moms are doing and they're having a successful career and they're home for the school bus and they love where they go to work. And so I look at the 3-year-olds and the 6-year-olds and I know those kids are going to grow up and they're going to believe that they can have that too. And that's what I can give to people. And that's what gets me out of bed in the morning.
So you really are the mom's mom. You really are.
I didn't put it together till this radio show, so I got a lot to unpack when we're done here.
Well, you certainly have everybody else's heart as a concern of yours. My bet is one of the reasons you got teased as a kid is because you are such a soft soul. But yet, because you believe in right and wrong, it's one of the reasons you've been able to build this business is because you really do have a spine and a backbone. You know what you're good at. You know what you're not. My bet is you don't have a lot of turnover, do you? You don't have your people are probably pretty loyal to you. So your customers, aren't they?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's your website address? What's the new website address of the Spearhead Group?
It's thespearheadgroup.com.
We've been speaking with Heather Fritzsche, who's the co-founder and CEO of the Spearhead Group. Matthew, could you give us a rundown on who else we've had the opportunity of speaking with today?
Yeah, I sure can, Herb. It's been a really powerful show. We started off with Ron Scheese, who was the president and CEO of Andesa Services. Then we had Matt Murphy, the CEO of InHome Therapy. We followed that with Greg DeCinque, the managing partner of Crystal Technologies Group. And just now we wrapped it up with Heather Fritzsche, the co-founder and CEO of the Spearhead Group.
I'd like to thank my co-hosts, including Jim Wilson, Newmark, Caleb Hoppus, Hanlon, Frank Hennessy, Premier Planning Group, and Matthew Shapiro, Obermeyer, for giving me a hand structuring the questions, hopefully providing our listening audience an educational and entertaining show. I'd like to thank our listening audience for listening. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a radio show. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. It's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. Thank you for joining us today, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.